Greetings, brothers. Obviously, we have a new Dante model. He will be releasing tomorrow. So today I'm going to talk to you about his rules, some tactics, and why I think there's some hope for the future. So let's get into it. Alright, greetings my friends. Today we're talking about Lord of the Angels, Hero of the Red Scar, Bringer of Sanguinius' Light, Lord Reagent of Imperial Nihilist, the Master of the Blood Angels, the Herald of Sanguinius, the Shield of Baal, the Chapter Champion, the Great Slayer, the Angel of Death, Commander Dante. He will be out tomorrow. This is his new datasheet, coming in straight away at 175 points. There isn't a whole heap of changes from his previous datasheet. I'll just highlight the changes, right? He has 1 extra wound, he has 1 extra attack. His pistol now has 3 inches of more range. It always does d6 plus 2 as opposed to only doing d6 plus 2 in half range. And now you draw a beam whenever you shoot the pistol. So potentially you can hit multiple units. I believe that I've heard a rumour that the wording from this is a copy and paste from the Votan. That's why it's a little bit confusing. But what have they said? Commander Dante soars over the battlefield, gleaming in his golden armour before roaring into a bloody battle on trails of fire. Once in the fray, his piercing gaze of his death mask freezes enemies in fright, while he perfectly plays strikes with the Arx Mortalis, cut down foe after foe. You know, so his death mask makes him -1 to hit, both in melee and in shooting, which I think if that stays into 10th edition will be really good. Right now I don't think it's all that great. He has a 4-up invan. He gives you 1 command point if he's your warlord. He obviously has the chapter master abilities, so basically a core or character within 6 can get full rerolls on their hits until your next command phase. He also has the aura, so core units within 6 can reroll 1s. Once per game, he can use an epic deed for 0. There's only 2 epic deeds that really apply to him. One is Angel Sacrifice, which he is arguably better at now, and one is Fight on Death. And the reason he's arguably better for Angel Sacrifice is his base size. He's gone from like a 32mm base to a 60mm base. And Angel Sacrifice relies on really good positioning of your model. Let's look at the strat. It says Angel Sacrifice, 1 CP. Remember, this could be his free epic deed. Use the stratagem in the fight phase. Select 1 Blind Angel's character from your army until the end of the phase. Each time an enemy is selected to fight, if a model is within engagement range of the character, when your opponent is selecting targets for attacks, those attacks can only target your character. So having this much bigger base that he is on now, and I think it's 60, I'm not 100% sure, it might be a 50. I guess we'll find out tomorrow when he delivers. A bunch of people have him now on Twitter. I didn't get him early. I guess I'm not cool enough to get him early. But anyway, he's on a much bigger base. You can see that. We know that. That will make it a lot easier to get more models within engagement range. So this actually helps him with Angel Sacrifice quite a bit. And this is one of the reasons that I didn't rush this video out, because I wanted to take a little bit of time and think about it. So Angel Sacrifice, he potentially got quite a bit better. Bigger base means he can get base contact or engagement range of a lot more enemies, forcing a lot more of them to fight against him rather than essentially fight against your other units. You know, like if he's in combat with, let's say a group of orc boys are in combat with Sanguinary Guard and Dante. Now a lot more of them are potentially going to have to fight Dante. So Angel Sacrifice has become a lot better. The other thing to say, he is obviously now got the Primaris keyword, which means he can transhuman for 1 CP, making it that he can only be wounded on 4s. So quite often I think Dante's biggest weakness before was like, I guess if you're fighting Death Guard, which basically make him toughness 3, or if you're fighting like you know, enemies with power weapons like power fists and stuff, then they're wounding you on 2s. So the ability to transhuman, and this will help, I guess, if ever you lose like a whole squad of Sanguinary Guard or a whole squad that he's with and he's left exposed on his own. Usually that's a good way for enemies to kill Dante. They might kill all your units in shooting, and then they might want to shoot their melta guns at Dante. Well, now you can potentially transhuman for 1 CP and make it that you can only be wounded on 4s. That will help a lot. And 1 more wound, although it doesn't sound like much, it is kind of like an artificial breakpoint. If you think about this before, when he's on 6 wounds, he gets killed by 3 2 damage attacks. When he's on 7 wounds, it now takes 4. So against 2 damage attacks, he essentially becomes 33% more survivable. If you transhuman him against a weapon that was going to basically be wounding on 2s before, it would now wound on 4s. Again, that's 33% increase in terms of survivability. So he's potentially like 50% more survivable than what he was. I don't think this is still great, you know, and his Warlord trait isn't that useful. We'll come to that in a minute. But this has definitely helped. I think he's overcosted, and the reason that I do think he's overcosted is because you can still get your Bike Chapter Master for 145 points, which is a big jump. And I actually reached out to Stephen Box, who is arguably one of the best Blood Angels players in the world, and asked him what he thought of the new rules of Dante. And he said that he liked the new rules, but he will not be running him either. He thinks he should be about 150 points. And I think if you compare him to other Chapter Masters, he is a little bit more expensive. It feels like, similarly to how we've said that we felt like the Sanguinary Priest had one of the most expensive jump packs in the game, we're paying a lot for Dante's ability to have that 12-inch move. And personally, if we talk about the Perdition Pistol, I've got another slide. We're going to come back to the Perdition Pistol in a minute. But these are the changes of Dante. So +1 wound, +1 attack, an improvement on the pistol. I put this up a year ago, you can see that. In almost every stream, people were asking me what they thought about Dante. What would they like the Primaris model to be? If he undergoes the same treatment as Mephiston, +1 attack and +1 wound, then I feel him becoming Primaris would be lackluster at best. This was me a year ago. 15% of the community thought that he should get the +1 wound. 78% of the community wanted him to be much more powerful, because Blood Angels are typically not going to get a Primarch unless there's some mad retcon. And then if I move my head, 6% were happy with Dante as Firstborn. So I don't know, I just shared this again. I thought it would be worth sharing. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this, but being in the bigger base and access to transhuman, I'm trying to see the positives. And this was me a year ago. Things change in a year. One of my biggest positives is we're close to 10th edition, and I hope he gets a proper revamp for 10th edition. Maybe that's just me being dumb and crossing my fingers. But I'll maybe have some justification for that in a few minutes. I also put a poll up just last week. It's funny that last year's one got 850 votes, this one got 856. What do people think of the new rules? 16% thought they were great, 57% said they were okay, and 27% said that they didn't like them. So, I mean, that kind of matches last year's poll, but not to the same extreme, right? So I guess people are generally happy that we got some new rules, but no one's really excited. And I think the reason people aren't really excited was we are a melee chapter. We want to do damage in melee while getting a buff to his pistol. And his pistol always used to have this special Perdition Pistol name. It was a special pistol. While getting the buff to the pistol is cool, that's not what most people wanted. I think most people wanted his Axe Mortalis to be better or more useful. I really wanted him to have a sweep attack, because I saw like Helbret got a sweep with his nice big sword, and thought Dante would be super awesome with a sweep. Some people want 3 damage, some people want the Axe Mortalis to do mortals. I guess that would make sense, and there's literally 1 letter different between them. And most people have said that this is just the profile of a Relic Blade. So for such a prestigious Chapter Master, he's just running around with a bog standard Relic Blade. Yes, it's got a different name, but overall it's not that exciting. I can understand that. 9 attacks on the charge is nice though. I mean, he will kill a bunch of stuff. He'll be pretty useful against 2 wound squads, possibly killing, like, I guess if he ever ended up Chapter Mastering himself, if you're fighting enemy infantry, he could potentially kill like 8 or 9 2-wound infantry a turn, which is pretty nice. He's still weak against -1 damage enemies, and that's why the Chapter Master with a Thunderhammer for 145 points to me is still really attractive. And he's still, I was going to say, and he's also weak against Toughness 8 models. Again, that's why the Chapter Master with the Thunderhammer's attractive, because basically he would wound Toughness 8 on 3s, where Dante will only wound Toughness 8 on 4s, which is pretty bad actually. So if Dante ever runs into like a big bad monster, our wound rate is not going to be that reliable, and if it's -1 damage as well, then you can expect him to do very little against it, and that's why I felt like he maybe needed a swipe, or a strike and a sweep, sorry. So key changes, yes, he can do transhuman, bit more survivable. 9 attack on the charge is great, but the strength is subpar. The extra 2 damage on the pistol is great, but the beam is unlikely to be useful. And the reason I want to say this beam is unlikely to be useful is Mortarion carries a pistol very similar to this. It's called the Lantern. It actually has a 12-inch range and it draws the beam. And I fought Mortarion more times than I care to admit in 9th edition, probably excess of 20. And I think out of those 20 games, maybe one time I remember the beam hitting multiple units. So I think Perdition Pistol, you're going to be lucky if once per game you can hit 2 units with the Perdition Pistol, and probably the one time you do manage to get 2 units, that's going to be the one time you roll a 1, and then you're going to miss and do nothing. So the Perdition Pistol, of the 2 things that we would have wanted to be improved, I think it would have 100% be the axe. And I've said that. People think that the axe is a bog standard relic blade, it's seen weak into certain armies, also no sweep, and then yeah, he's also just too expensive, and I really wanted to get some justification on am I an idiot? Am I just biased? Do I overrate the bike chapter master at 145 points? But getting some clarification from other top Blood Angels players saying that they're not going to run him because he's too expensive makes me feel, I guess, here's the thing for me. I love the new model. I think it looks super cool. I want to include Dante in my list. However, my current list is playing really well, and I'm really enjoying my current list, and it includes my 145 point chapter master. Maybe we'll find a way to get Dante in there. Probably will find a way and play him on the channel a couple of times, but I do think he could probably... Games Workshop had a really tough time balancing Blood Angels this edition. At the moment, I know we're sitting right at the bottom of the Goldilocks zone at 45%, but you know, they had Sanguinary Guard for a long time in this edition at 32 points per model, which we all agreed and thought was overcosted, and then they've been back to 30 points now for like a year. So it's kind of, I feel like they're the same thing. They're 10% too high on the points for some of our characters. Mephiston's another one, right? Mephiston sat at 145 points for like 2 years. Nobody ran him. They brought him down to 125, and he's seen a little bit of play, but still not much, because Mephiston has key weaknesses as well. So, yeah, hopefully, my thought is hopefully 10th edition is a bit of a reset. The new weapon profiles and the new profiles that are being shared every day for 10th edition are vastly different. So I expect something will change with Dante in 10th edition, and that's what I want to talk to you about in just a minute. Let me just read the rules for the pistol so they're nice and clear. Each time attack is made with this weapon, if a hit is scored, draw a line between the closest point on the model's base and the closest point in the target unit. So it has to be the 2 closest points, your model and the unit you're targeting, and you make 1 wound roll against the target unit and each other unit this line passes over, excluding units that were not eligible to be targets. So you couldn't hit like a Lookout Star character or something using like by drawing a strange line. I realistically think, like I said, once per game you're maybe going to be able to hit 2 models. Blood Angels are typically not going to be wanting to be 9 inches away or like a long distance away from the primary target that you want to charge, right? So it's almost, that's why I think this is really gimmicky, because you're going to want to be like, if you fail your charges as Blood Angels, you get shot out in the open and you lose the game, you're crippled. So typically you're wanting to make those charges as close as possible. So I think the pistol could have just stayed at 6 inches and got the +2, draw a line under that, and do something for the axe. All we needed was probably a sweet profile. But anyway, that's the rules for the pistol. Heroic Bearing, you can still take this. If you do take it, you kind of nullify the +1 command point you get for being the Warden of the Imperial Nihilus. So, because you'd obviously spend 1 command point to get the Warlord trait. This is going to make his aura basically go up to 9 inches, so that's 9 inches of reroll 1s for core units, or he can pass out the Chapter Master buffs to a unit 9 inches away. On the new sized base, again, this will give his aura quite a bit more oomph. I guess you're probably talking like a circle that's basically like 21 inches maybe in diameter. So this is a big bubble you can build now, much bigger, basically another couple inches bigger than it was before, and also models that are basically within 9 of the Warlord, again in this big bubble, will get to add +1 to the leadership. So if you are running a bunch of Marines, not that Marines fail leadership very often, and it's only core models, and this is why I think this is kind of weak. Because a lot of Marine players take Oath of Moment and go through a whole game not failing leadership tests for Oath of Moment without any leadership buff. That is a thing that happens. That is, I would say, maybe not 9 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10. When you take Oath of Moment, you go through the whole game not failing any leadership tests. If you do, you fail like 1, and the chances are maybe that 1 would be like a unit that's not even within this aura. So that's why I think this aura is actually kind of weak. I hope... And again, this is one of the reasons that I run my Chapter Master on a bike over Dante. I can put something super useful on my Chapter Master, like Rites of War. I really hope that they decouple these like required Warlord traits in 10th edition. So if you take Dante, you can put something different and useful on him. I think this would help characters loads. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the near future what that's going to look like in 10th. If you got some value out of today's video, hit the like button. Do share this video with any Blood Angels friends, or do consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see Blood Angels content every week. I do really appreciate it. You can also become a channel member either on Patreon or by clicking the join button under this YouTube video. And basically for the price of less than a cup of coffee, because let's face it, Starbucks is like £5 now for a coffee, you can support the channel and me, and that is super appreciated. I thank everybody that supports me every month so much. I appreciate you guys. So let's talk a little bit about conclusion. I don't expect Dante's rules in 10th to be identical to the ones that he has right now. And we know that... I've also heard that some people think these are stopgap rules because 10th's going to be out in like 10 weeks. So they haven't put too much effort into these sets of Dante rules. I kind of hope that's the case, but I don't know. I personally found his Death Mask of -1 to be hit pretty useless in 9th edition, just to the sheer number of rerolls that there is in the game in 9th edition. Games Workshop have said that there's going to be less rerolls in 10th, so this could make that better if the Death Mask stays as -1 to hit. I remember when Heroic Bearing was different in 8th edition. I don't know if you remember, but I did look back in my old codex. Heroic Bearing used to just mean auto-pass morale tests, and it was within 6. So they do change Warlord traits from edition to edition, and now they're going to be known as enhancements, and like I just said, maybe we're not going to be so limited. That's all we can hope for. And also for people with a poor memory, myself included, I went back and looked at the Axe Mortalis in 8th edition. It was actually strength 6, and it was D3 damage. And back in the 8th edition, the Death Mask gave enemies -1 to the leadership. So there's actually quite a few changes around like Dante as a whole, in terms of like his damage output, his strength, his leadership, etc. between 8th and 9th. So there is a chance. And if you look at some of the new rules that are surfacing at the moment, weapons are getting totally changed, units are getting totally changed. The Terminator Librarian just came out and he looks super different, right? So yeah, Dante may change. So leave me a comment down below on your wish list for 10th edition Dante. Who knows what we may end up seeing. Maybe we'll include some of the best ones when we do the tactics video for his next batch of rules, or maybe we'll include some of the batshit crazy ones, because last time round there were some people that wanted Dante to basically, what was it, the Tenacious D song? Mind bullets. He's just going to kill everyone with mind bullets. He's just going to be awesome. And maybe now Dante's going to lead some squads. And there's going to be a video about squad leadership and all that. I'm covering everything to do with 10th edition on the channel, so do make sure you're subscribed. I hope you enjoyed this week's tactics video. Hope you maybe learned something, and let me know how it goes if you are fielding Dante in one of your upcoming lists. Thank you ever so much for watching, my friends. We'll catch you in the next one. By the blood are we made strong. Peace.